The demo for Little Nightmares 3 was released recently, this week. All fans of the series have been waiting for this moment, and now it has arrived. Very soon the new part of the game will be available to everyone. I have played the first two parts of this game and immediately called my boyfriend to try it too. I should say that I played the first and second parts of Little Nightmares quite recently, this summer, a couple of months ago. I remember the old games well, so I can easily compare the gameplay and overall atmosphere of the new parts with the two older ones. I was told many times to play the first two parts of this game series, but I only got around playing them relatively recently. And I'm very glad I didn't miss out on this game. I absolutely loved the atmosphere. It doesn't try to scare you with screamers like a typical horror game. Instead, it creates a feeling of oppression with its atmosphere and immerses you in the events of the game and what is happening around you. It slowly introduces you to the rules by which this world lives. The soundtrack really pulls you into the game. At the right moment you will hear it, but in some places you won't. You can hear your enemy breathing or the creaks of the floor. I love the game for its attention to detail in the locations, which really hooked me and made me want to explore the locations for a long time and look closely such items on the shelves. Most importantly, the game rewarded you for your curiosity. You could find gnomes hiding in corners and nooks and crannies where an ordinary person would not be able to find them. Or, as in second part, you could collect heads, which encouraged you to look more closely at the dark areas. It felt like the world was fully formed, but there was still a nagging feeling that something was wrong and that there were secrets that remained undisclosed until the end. Thanks to all these things, lots of people are still trying to work out what really happened in the first two parts of the series, whether it was real or just a dream. Before I talk about what I thought of Little Nightmares 3, there's something I want to mention. Tertiary Studio, the company that made the first two games in the series, has been bought by Embracer. Tertiary Studio didn't own the rights to the Little Nightmares franchise, so Bandai Namco, the publisher, chose another studio to carry on the work. Supermassive Games took over. And here I would like to pause and take a closer look at the new studio. You probably already heard about them and their famous game Until Dawn, which took the interactive movie game market by storm when it was released. They also had other games in the same genre, but they had no experience in developing games like Little Nightmares, namely in the platformer genre with quest elements. The third part of the game will be their first experience of this genre. It is also worth mentioning that they began advertising and promoting the new part by focusing on the game's new feature, namely co-op play. It is also unknown whether they will follow the world building of the previous developers, whether they have a document describing where the plot of the game written by all team will go, and whether they have a document about the lore and world building of the game in order to write the plot further on this basis. I really hope that they will logically tie in the sequel and be able to reveal even more of the world to fans of the series. We'll talk more about how they did it later. As for the demo, it lasts about 30 to 40 minutes, depending on how quickly you run through the locations. The game starts in the same way as all previous games in the series. We are shown the main object of the plot for a long time, and then, without explanation, we are thrown into the thick of it. We are left to explore the location ourselves and move through the locations from one screen to another. Everything is standard. We meet two heroes who have different abilities. One has a bow, the other has a range. As you play, one of the players is given tasks, such as using a bow to cut a rope or using a range to break through a wall or a pile of stones in some locations. Now let's talk about the gameplay. Overall, I didn't notice any major changes compared to the second part, and no new mechanics were added in the demo version of the game. You can tell me that umbrellas have appeared that you can use to fly, but they're just tools for lifting you up. They don't carry any puzzles or important items. You still open doors and hatches with the help of not only one player, but also an assistant. Only in the previous game a bot did it for you, and now it's just you and your friend. The only time it was really important to work together and use everyone's abilities was in the battle with bugs. And that's all there is to it. Then throughout the game you take turns, one shooting at objects in the air, the other breaking down walls from time to time. There was one moment where you had to lift one person up and the other had to lower the ladder so that he could climb up. But it's hard to call it co-op. there are no clear actions that require communication with each other or interesting tasks in the game. Even take It Takes Two as an example, where the gameplay constantly changed and you didn't have time to get bored. There are really interesting and non-repetitive tasks that require coordinated work, and the entire gameplay is built on this. It turns out that in the demo there are no innovations, and the game repeats the entire experience you had in the previous parts. You may say that the gameplay in this game is not so important, and that the atmosphere and the story are more important, for example. But let's be honest, you will get bored after an hour of running around from left to right, because the whole point of Little Nightmares is to convey the story through the narrative. No one will entertain you with cutscenes and spoon-feed you the whole story. You can either notice an important detail or miss it. What's important in the game are interesting puzzles, interactions with locations and objects there, so you get to know the world around the hero, which is what hooked me. Let's talk about atmosphere and surroundings. I want to continue my thought about objects and surroundings. In previous games in the series, I really enjoyed picking up all kinds of objects, throwing them, breaking them, and moving them around. It added liveliness to the perception of this world. You believed that someone really lived or worked here, for example. As for the demos, there were only a couple of things that I could actually pick up and move somewhere. Mostly, when I tried to do something, the game simply restricted me and didn't let me jump, or there were objects lying on the floor that were just for decoration. In previous games, it didn't work that way. You could run through 3 locations or more with the boot in your hands, because you just wanted to, and you weren't restricted. I don't know what the new developers were afraid of, whether they were afraid of bugs or were just too lazy to add new items. Suddenly, the rooms become not a place you want to explore, but just empty corridors that you simply pass through in order to move on. In this sense, the game loses its charm. As you remember, the first games had all kinds of secrets hidden from the average player, which only the attentive ones found, and for that they received rewards in the form of totems, gnomes, or simply found important places that complemented the game's lore. For this, you wanted to try and explore, because you knew you would get a reward. In the demo, there wasn't a single moment where the developers hid a secret. I searched every corner, looked behind bags and under beds, but in almost an hour of playing the demo, I didn't find a single secret. The motivation for the player to explore the world immediately disappears. Why try to explore or search for something if there's nothing there anyway? So, the gameplay consists of simply running from left to right, if you can call it a gameplay. Occasionally, silhouettes of eyes appear in the game, but it's hard to call them secrets. Rather, they simply refer us to previous parts of the game, which is not enough for 30-minute demo, after which I should want to buy the game. As for the atmosphere, I can say one thing. At first glance, the color palette is very warm and cozy. There is no creepy feeling like there was in previous installments with their cold shades and sicky greens. Previously, warm colors were only used in certain places, and blue, purple and green prevailed. Because of this, the game felt more uncomfortable, gloomy and unfriendly. The game immediately immerses you in an atmosphere where you feel like you don't belong, and the world around you is cruel. While I was playing the demo, 70% of the game was in warm colors, and occasionally the locations were blue. I think colors are a very important factor for the atmosphere, because they immediately set the mood for the location and set the right tone for the narrative. And the second factor, I think everyone will agree, is that you play with a friend. Honestly, even the scariest game with a friend instantly turns into a comedy, so it's very difficult to feel the horror when you're sitting comfortably in Discord. It's much better when you're sitting alone at your computer at night and you see scary silhouettes on the screen, or you're trying to hide from the enemies in the shadows, sitting there all nervous while they search for you. But with a friend, you start giggling and just messing around. This ruins the game's attempts to scare you. After the demo, I was left with mixed feelings. Even in the moment with the huge child that was supposed to be scary, I just stood in the shadows and waited for him to leave. I didn't feel any adrenaline or anything like that. Of course, you can tell me that it's just 30-minute demo and that it's not enough to reveal the game, or you can tell me that developers don't want to show everything before the release to keep it interesting. I will say this. A demo should sell the game. After playing it, I should want to buy it, but it didn't make me want to. There's nothing new in terms of gameplay, and the price tag is $40. I'm sorry, but this game will be $20 more expensive than the first part, and $10 more expensive than the second. At the same time, as I understand it, the game will not give you a free access for a friend, if for example you have already bought the game. You and your friend will have to pay $80 for what I listed above. Meanwhile, the constantly changing gameplay Game It Takes Two costs $65 per copy at release, plus a free pass for a friend. As a result, it costs less and offers cool moments and experiences that no other game can offer. The developers of Little Nightmares have not yet announced a pass for a friend, but if they don't add it, judge yourself. If you're a big fan of Little Nightmares and its atmosphere, I would take a look at a new project from the old studio that made the first two parts, namely the game Reanimal. Watch the trailer, I'm sure you will like it. It's literally the spiritual successor of Little Nightmares. The game will be in the same genre, namely a platformer with the quest elements. It also has a creepy atmosphere and the same visuals, but with a new story. In my opinion, it will be much more interesting and original than the third part of Little Nightmares, so it's definitely worth checking out. My impressions were neither positive nor negative. The game just left me with almost no impressions that I want to share. I understand that this is all subjective, but I tried to describe and explain logically what I felt and why I felt that way. What do you think of the Little Nightmares 3 demo? What are your impressions and are you looking forward to the game? I would love to read your comments. Thank you for watching, and I wish you the coziest evenings playing games this fall.